Awesome. Great. So I think next topic is terrific. Carl, talking about industries and the impact of COVID and all that. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I think I will step out and leave it to you guys.
Thank you, Chip. Great sessions by Wipro and Software AG. I think it was full of great insights, and I believe a lot of follow-on conversations will take place after these sessions. Hello, everyone. My name is Anita, and I'm from the Network Success team at WorkSpan. I'm very happy to introduce Carl Kesselring. Carl leads the global ecosystems for the SAP practice at NTT Data. Our session today is very exciting. We're going to be talking about driving market-leading industry solutions with the ecosystem partners, and top of mind for everyone, how COVID-19 has impacted these priorities. So welcome, Carl. Very happy to have you on our session today. If you'd like to introduce yourself to our audience, we can get started.
Yeah, thank you, Anita. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you to WorkSpan, to Chip, and the whole team for hosting such a great session. It's an honor to be the next speaker after such a great lineup. So Anita already did a great job. So in introduction, so again, Carl Kesselring. I spent the majority of my career with SAP, actually, so have quite a bit of history in the SAP organization, in partner ecosystem leadership roles, as well as in several industries. And I joined NTT Data Services roughly a year and a half ago. And in my current role, I'm the COO, and as part of the COO role, the head of ecosystems for the SAP practice of NTT Data Services.
Awesome, Carl. Really appreciate you being here with us today. So what I'd like to do is kick it off by, if you could give us a highlight of some of the strategic goals for NTT Data Services and how your role and your team is supporting these broader goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very happy to. Maybe to set the stage, a few words on NTT and NTT Data. So NTT, which is a global Japanese-based IT and telecommunications conglomerate, one of the top 70 firms in the world, with roughly $110 billion in revenue. NTT Data rolls up to the mothership NTT, along with another few larger entities like Entity Limited and so on, that's also in the IT infrastructure business. And as part of NTT Data, we are the SAP practice, which is a pretty sizable practice with roughly $2 billion in revenue on a global basis. And we address the market, collaborating closely with SAP, mainly in the areas of digital transformation. So that has different aspects, as I'm sure the majority of the attendees know. And very lately, not as a big surprise, I think, and all my former speakers also referred to that, we saw quite some adjustments in the marketplace that we directly respond to in terms of our strategy, right? So right now, where we are in a kind of a U-shaped dip in the economy, it seems, right? We are very focused on offerings around operational resiliency to address the COVID crisis and the challenges that our customers go through, right? From our perspective in the IT world, we are a little bit in a luxurious position that if I just take as an example myself, right, unless I was on business travel, I was working from home anyway. So what I'm doing right now is to do what I always did, which is work from home without the business travel, right? Which is certainly also an adjustment, but not as a dramatic adjustment as it is for some of the other industries who are definitely not used to that setup. And so we adjusted the priorities of our strategy in the go-to-market to support our customers at this stage of the recovery with operational resiliency offerings, mainly around dynamic workplace. The cloud transformation is driving acceleration, and also a big topic is information technology security, right? Once we get through this and we are more in the recovery and in the innovation phase again, we'll get back to our original trajectory. But right now we are helping our customers through the crisis very seriously.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. I think all of the strategic goals that you mentioned, dynamic workplace, cloud transformation, digital transformation, information security, I'm sure many in our audience today have the same priorities. They're thinking about the same things. And innovation and staying ahead of the game is so key to achieving these goals, right? So to that extent, how do you think about working with your ecosystem partners to drive more innovation and value for your customers?
Well, first of all, ecosystem is a very broad term, and if you've worked in the ecosystem for many years, like most of us have, right, it can mean a lot of things. So first of all, let me spend 2 minutes defining what it means for entity data services and for the SAP practice at entity data services. Obviously, our most important ecosystem partner is SAP itself, right? As we are really 100% focused on the SAP go-to-market. And collaboration happens, how I always explain it, in 3 layers. You have the joint go-to-market with SAP, where we, from our side of the operations, focus on large enterprise accounts, which typically have named account executives, so counterparts on the SAP side. So you have go-to-market collaboration. The second layer is around system integration services themselves, where we are collaborating with SAP's consulting organization. And the third layer is co-innovation, where we're working usually with a very industry-specific flavor closely with SAP on industry model companies and alike, right? So that's the ecosystem from the SAP side. Along with that, also all other partner companies and third parties like ISVs, hyperscalers, boutique consultancies, we define them as part of our ecosystem as well, as they contribute basically to our overall offering that we offer to our customers, right? So to give an example, if we have a large global customer, right, let's say with an international rollout of an S/4HANA in 20 countries or something like that, right, you typically see implications that in some countries you're going on a hyperscaler environment, you have a hybrid mix of on-premise hyperscaler, maybe some ISVs in the mix, right? So it can be a quite complex environment. And we really listen closely and try to address our customer needs in a way to come up with an efficient deployment model along those lines.
Excellent. So it looks like, Carl, you work with different types of partnerships to drive that digital transformation, big companies like SAP, and then you also have the smaller ISVs and third-party companies. So if we drill down a little bit around the partners, ISV partners like the Solex partners, right? So how do they fit into the overall solutions that you're providing to your customers today?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Solex partners have a very elevated status with SAP, right? It's globally a very limited number of partner organizations with own content and IP that typically reach that status. So we value them very highly, A, for their product build outs, and B, for their expertise and very specific expertise. Let's say in the process mining space, in the data migration space, and so on. And in larger rollouts, you typically have those requirements. So we really welcome collaboration with those Solex partners. I can give an example, for example, with Synity, which is former Back Office Associates, right, which is a very strategic partner of ours. We have joined S/4HANA larger global pursuits where they contribute to the customer's benefit very specific products and services in collaboration with our offering. The customer typically appreciates that we have relationships, integration, and collaboration in place that the customer on their behalf, on their end, with the project management don't need to take care of, right? Because the providers come in as a bundle, if you will. So in our company, the go-to-market overall has a very strong industry-led flavor. So the SAP organization and go-to-market organization is basically an overlay horizontal advisory organization that helps our go-to-market teams to work with the clients around digital solutions. And so by forming those partnerships with the ISVs, we jointly work together with our industry partnerships and our industry clients on those solutions. So that's basically the setup.
Yeah, I think that's a great segue into the go-to-market discussion. In one of the previous conversations, Carl, you mentioned that go-to-market was really important for you, and with COVID-19 hitting all of us, it has led you to adjust your strategies around the industries that you're going to go to market with, and for NTT Data, that's a big thing, going to market by industries, right? So how do you organize to drive that value to your customers? When you're working with ISV partners, cloud partners, how do you define your strategy in that case?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I was partly referring to that already in my last response, right? So the overall go-to-market, as I said, is industry-led, and we have identified industry verticals. Let's say everything in the manufacturing space, automotive supply space, life sciences space, pharma, and medical supplies. For example, as strategic industries in our go-to-market, where we lead with strong industry expertise. Now, the market overall with global strategic SIs, right, is rather busy, as we all know. So the golden question is always, how do you successfully differentiate and able to elevate your offerings in the marketplace to get the client's interest and finally obviously get the client to pick you to serve and to address certain IT issues that they would like to resolve, right? So we look at that with a very strong industry flavor. We are identifying systematically other ISV, Solix partner, boutique consultancies, and so on, that have very specific expertise and based on their size, on their geography, are interested in growing their business, and where along those dimensions, basically we get to an operational fit between the companies, where we feel that a joint offering is differentiating in the marketplace and can be deployed to the client's benefit and makes a good offering, right? So that is driven by our market position already, that have, I'm talking agnostic here, in the industry sectors, and that's also where SAP comes in, who is very interested in partners who have specific expertise and focus on industry sectors. So it becomes basically a triangle relationship, right, between other third parties, SAP and NTT Data Services, where we have those bundled offerings that we take to the market, right? And in our strategic industries in the last couple of years, that has been a very successful deployment model.
Awesome. So Carl, you work with cloud hyperscalers. You're working with both large ISV and cloud partners, and many opportunities to bring best of breed solutions to your customers. So what are some of the challenges that you face when you're dealing with multiple partners and multiple individual personas? So how do you handle all those things?
Right. So I mean, it became in the last few years a very busy marketplace, right? And you have large entities who are the large 500-pound gorillas in the marketplace, right? On the ISV side, SAP certainly being one of them. You have 3 market-leading hyperscalers as an additional layer of complexity in that whole landscape, if you will. NTT Data and NTT as the mothership is one of the largest data center operators in the world, right? And is also providing a lot of infrastructure. So a lot of things that the hyperscalers provide, I also look at an in-house option, if you will. So how you approach it is, first of all, you listen to the client, right? So where the client wants to go, they ask you for some advice, but in the end, you want to be able to craft a very specific package for the respective client, getting very close to that ideal scenario that the client has in mind, right? And that in return then makes it very beneficial for you if you maintain a very comprehensive infrastructure of an ecosystem, so that you are able to respond to very specific client requests in a dynamic way, right? Translating that into the hyperscalers, we maintain a very high level certification with all the 3 hyperscalers. Interestingly, also SAP very recently, at the end of last year, made some preferential choices, right, in terms of preferred hyperscaler collaboration, right? We stay a little as NTT agnostic and collaborate with the SAP's preferred choice, but based on customer requirements also with others, right? So that makes an interesting environment, as I mentioned, right? So this is the technology infrastructure layer, right? So you're coming in the technology stack from the bottom up, from the application services practice, and together with SAP, you typically come in the stack, approach the stack from the top down, right? Which adds another few players. And here we get to where actually we really appreciate collaboration with WorkSpan, and where an underlying collaboration platform, in my view, comes in a very helpful way, right? So if you have an underlying platform where the major contributors in the marketplace are participating, that can really help facilitate and helps to support move collaboration forward in multiple dimensions, right? You have the go-to-market, you have market development funds, you have collaboration agreements, you have recognition of some revenue generation in the one or other form, and so on. So there's a lot of aspects to that, right? And which we are confronted with, and it's actually, bottom line for me, very helpful to see a growing platform, underlying platform that major players seem to agree on, and to support that collaboration.
Awesome. So Carl, looks like you're doing all the right things, you know, the challenges that COVID has brought upon us: digital transformation, adjusted priorities, cloud transformation. You're thinking the right things, and you know, glad to see that there is so much momentum around these priorities and strategies. So what's next on your agenda, you know, both as an organization and for the NTT SAP practice? Where do you see most of the innovations coming from in your space?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you. So, well, first of all, thank you for coming to the conclusion that we are doing the right things. We are at least trying hard, and I think time will tell, right? So we shall see, but I think it's at least a very well thought through process, and a very thoughtful approach that wants to help the client and the broader society to address the challenges at hand, right? So staying positive and always seeing the glass as being half full, right? I think and we believe strongly we'll get through this, right? And will resurface in a stronger way. So it's basically a two-pronged approach, right? So as I mentioned, operational resiliency and resiliency offerings right now have a top priority. But once we resurface innovation and top-notch digital innovation, and think here of innovative technologies, right? And I'm talking the Industry 4.0, the AI aspects, machine learning aspects, RPA, so intelligent robotic process automation, and so on, are really top of mind and are focus areas that we have identified for ourselves. And our goal is to be trusted partner of the client for the basic infrastructure on the technology side, but also on the application layer side, and combine that in a very meaningful and targeted way with those intelligent technologies.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Carl. I think this has been a fantastic session. I'm sure this resonates with everybody in our audience today. So thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for the opportunity and appreciate you hosting us.
Thank you, Carl. Over to
Excellent.
you. Or
Yeah, great, good discussion, and thanks for sharing so many of your thoughts, Carl. We do actually have some questions coming in again.
Okay.
So, and we're pretty good on time, but I've got a couple minutes. So, Carl, have you seen from your clients in terms of what have you seen from your clients in terms of requirements as you help them with the journey to cloud, security, transparency in terms of where their workloads are, disaster recovery, et cetera?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. What we currently see and what clients are addressing to us is that there is a historic spike in attacks, right? And hacker attacks that can be phishing, that can be physical, can be brutal force, whatever, right? And so we are trying here to get ahead of the curve and help the clients through on the information technology security side, right? Which is definitely an expertise area. And the other part of the question, remind me again, Chip. The first part was
It was about requirements in the cloud, so security.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, the requirements to the cloud. So with the COVID situation, especially also from a capital expense perspective, right? A lot of clients have really more or less severe impact on their revenue structure, right? So the whole dimension of capital expense versus operational expense, translating to the move to the cloud, right? On-premise free investment versus operationalizing the expense, right? Has definitely accelerated the momentum of the move to the cloud from what we see. There's obviously the native cloud solutions out there, but also environments that have previously on-prem, right, have a strong tendency right now that the customers would like to see bundled offerings where based on an OpEx model.
Cool. Maybe just this last question. What opportunities, if any, has this new COVID environment created for alliances? What new problems can alliance professionals solve?
Mm-hmm. I personally observe that the challenges that we have gotten, right, have kind of a huge impact on the whole operational setup of how we collaborate, right? It's a virtual work environment, right? In our opinion, and that is actually even reflected by our CEO's opinion, a lot of these changes are here to stay, right? So we kind of question whether the whole operational setup business travel and in-person meetings and so on, whether the new normal will go back 100% to the old normal, right? So I think that's a very valid point. And I think that translates into also in terms of the alliances as well, that we have a kind of, at the moment, some momentum in the remote sales approach and remote go-to-market approach, right? We want to stay stable, continue to support our clients, physical meetings not being possible, and so on. And that translates into the alliance space as well, right? So there is obvious things, which is technology support of that whole new situation, right? Where you have providers who have a lot of capabilities there and who have been doing well already in the past, but do even better and become even more relevant in the new setup. And you have an impact in terms of companies who are also in terms of transforming their processes and being also in a virtual environment, being capable of going side by side with you in a virtual way, right? I saw some are adopting faster than others, right? And so that's another impact as well.
Carl, thank you. Excellent. Anita, great job. Your first outing as a moderator as well.
And I'll see you on some bigger network channel pretty soon, Anita.
That's right.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me, Chip, and very happy to support.